episode of the Two Jasons. And today we're going to be talking about the 40th anniversary of Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil album and all the latest Motley news. Before we get into all that, my friend Jason Lee Beckwith, you got injured since we did our last show. You want to let everybody know how you're doing and what's going on in your world?
I'm fine. Thank you. A lot of people actually checking in with me on Facebook and whatnot. But, you know, it was me not paying attention. I was out to dinner with my son, and they were moving some tables and moving some chairs. And, of course, you want to be helpful, so I started grabbing chairs and didn't watch where I stepped, and I fell. I fallen, and I can't get up.
Wow.
But I slammed my hip onto a Spanish tile floor. And you know, when you get old, those hips, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it turned into a groin thing, and a groin injury is a whole nother level of, oh man, all you football players out there with your groin injuries, ooh, you got my sympathy, because that's so not fun. Not fun at all. But because Kaiser is awesome, you know, and because Palomar's ER in Escondido is awesome, I got squared away, you know.
That's great to hear. Yeah.
And I'm doing all right. I got rid of the crutches a few days ago. I spent a couple of weeks not being able to walk on my own, but gradually came back, and I'm playing drums, and I'm feeling good, and I'm actually standing up and getting on the microphone a little bit for a couple of new projects I'm working with. So, you know, all is good. All is good.
Glad to hear that. Now,
I'm good. God is good, and He's got me.
Let's get into tonight's show, Jason. You know, tell the story of how you became a Motley Crue fan.
Honestly, I think probably the first song I ever heard was either Looks That Kill or Livewire.
Okay, yeah. Makes
but
sense.
I think it was Looks That Kill or Shout at the Devil, and then I went back and caught the earlier stuff. You know,
makes sense, because Shout at the Devil would have been over. Especially Looks That Kill would have been all over radio and MTV at that time.
Yeah. So I think it was one of those two.
Yeah.
Either or, really, one right after the other. So you could almost say both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that album was just, you know, and then you go back and you hear the other early stuff, and then you're on board. So then you hear the stuff that comes after it. But Looks to Kill and Shout at the Devil, especially Shout at the Devil with, you know, and back then they would play a couple of things on the radio, you know, the radio.
In fact, it was
radio. Do you remember? Hey, kids, do you remember radio?
Yeah. Looks to Kill and Too Young to Fall in Love were the two big songs off this album.
Right.
Of course, you know, for the metal community, it was Shout at the Devil. And, you know, Quiet Riot had just had a #1 album with Mental Health, and that's turning 42 this year. But
they were the first #1 on the charts for heavy metal.
Yeah, but Shout at the Devil was really from Motley Crue, because if you go back and you've heard Too Fast for Love, that was much more of a closer to a punk album almost. And Nikki Sixx has talked over years about, okay, people thought that's what Motley Crue was, and he goes,
Looks to Kill, yeah.
You know, like you know, Too Fast for Love, and he says, you know,
oh no, that's what I meant. Yeah,
Live Wire, and you know, Take Me to the Top, and he's like, so
Live Wire, especially the guitars on the intro,
so raw, and he
very
was
raw, very raw.
So when we went to do Shout at the Devil, I wanted it to be more darker, heavier, blacker. So tell people, okay, you think you know what Motley Crue? We're gonna throw you for a spin, you know.
But you know, I think if you look at the entirety of their career, they've done that time and time again. They have reinvented themselves several times. Think about the kind of band that think of Live Wire, the guitar tone on the intro of that, right? Or Take Me to the Top. Think of that. That's almost akin to Randy Rhoads era Quiet Riot. You know what I mean? But anyways, think of that band. Then think of in the beginning going into Shout at the Devil. You know that intro, right? You know,
sure. Yeah.
Right. So right there, those are two completely different sonic landscapes. Then you think of Shout at the Devil, and go with Girls, Girls, Girls. Or Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away.
Yeah.
It's almost got a country feel to it. You know what I mean? So they reinvented themselves again, And then when when you start to see a John 5 influence around the time of the movie The Dirt, because it was basically him on those songs, not Mick. And so right there, they're already into a different kind of. So they've reinvented themselves several times along the way, and I was on board every time. Especially Shout at the Devil. And what's your favorite track on Shout at the Devil?
Okay, well, I think it goes between Looks at Kill and Shout at the Devil. I'd say sonically probably Shout at the Devil, just because it's such a full-blown on metal song, and there's really nothing that sounded like it at that time. And even that track was getting on metal radio back then. I was surprised they didn't do a video for it. They finally put one out when they did the Dirt soundtrack for Shout at the Devil. But Looks to Kill, I'm with you, because that's probably the first. That and Too Young to Fall in Love, those were all over MTV. I remember seeing those first. But I'd say Looks to Kill, I love the hook. I've always loved the hook in that song, and just such rawness to the whole thing. I mean, they definitely were not pop, although it was being played on MTV and the radio, but it was one of the few metal bands being played on the radio at that time.
I'll tell you what, their Helter Skelter cover is pretty damn good too.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that before, and the point I made with that is, when you think of the Beatles, you probably don't think of heavy metal, but that's as metal as the Beatles ever got. And interestingly enough,
and it was from the one they always said was the most poppy.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, people of our generation might be surprised to find out that no, Helter Skelter is not a Motley Crue song written by Nikki Sixx. It was written by Lennon and McCartney.
If somebody really thinks that, actually, they probably do.
I mean, I'm sure there are, people that don't even read the writing credits. They just, that's
hey man, I saw that in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what else I really liked off that album was Too Young to Fall in Love.
Yeah.
I love that kind of it's kind of a strutting kind of a I don't know, but it's got this groove on it, I dig it. I dig it a lot,
And then
another thing, some raw stuff like 10 Seconds to Love is kind of a throwback to the raw stuff, you know what I mean?
And Red Hot too. That sounds like a song that maybe could have been on Too Fast for Love. Maybe it was left over from that. And
exactly, both those songs.
Interesting enough, that's the only song on Shout at the Devil that Vince Neil's credited as a co-writer.
That's not true.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's one more.
Okay.
The two that he's credited on, three actually.
Oh, okay.
Danger, a song called Danger.
Yeah.
Knock 'Em Dead Kid, and Red Hot.
Yeah.
Red Hot, all four. No, Nikki Sixx, Mick Mars, and Vince Neil are credited on that.
Yeah.
Knock 'Em Dead Kid is Nikki and Vince, and Danger is Mick, Nikki, and Neil.
Yeah.
Neil.
Okay. Oh, okay. And Knock 'Em Dead Kid. That's another track I've always loved. It's just a little fun song. It's one that a lot of people probably haven't heard. It didn't get a ton of airplay, but like even in prepping for today's show, I was listening to the album and like, oh, that's a track I forgot about.
Yeah, for sure. Now I think my favorites probably go back and forth depending on what mood I'm in. But probably Looks to Kill or Too Young to Fall in Love or Shout at the Devil. It's a trifecta, and sometimes I just can't choose.
And in fact, Shout at the Devil, I don't know if you know this story that originally they were going to call it Shout with the Devil. That was Nikki Sixx's little bright idea, but Doc McGee, I believe, was the one that told him, no, you got to change the lyric. You can't be shouting with the devil. Nobody's ever going to put the record in the store.
Shout at the devil.
Yeah. And it seems to work. But again, Nicky's always been he's like the one guy in the band that's the principal songwriter. And he's always been able to write all kinds of songs.
Yeah, he's even written a song on the new rock album by the Queen, Dolly Parton.
That is one, believe it or not, I can't wait to hear. I mean, it's coming out. I heard in October.
She's going to do Hate Myself for Loving You with Joan Jett. She's going to do Open Arms with Steve Perry.
Richie Sambora sings on a track. Nikki and John Five play on a track. Rob Halford does a track with her. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I tell you, if that album doesn't get a Grammy, I don't know, especially the way it came about that them wanting to put her in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she said, well, if they're going to do that, then I got to make a rock album.
She backed out. She said, I'm sorry, I want to back out. And they said, babe, we're giving it to you anyways because you are worthy. We look up to you and let us honor you. She says, all right, then I'm going to earn it. I'm going to go and do a new
album. And when she did that,
30 songs, man.
Yeah. I mean, definitely giving us our money's worth. And
three albums worth in 1 year's time.
Yeah. And we got Miss Dolly Parton to thank for that, because it finally allowed Judas Priest to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because she backed out of that. And I was reading an article recently about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame saying Iron Maiden will eventually get in. they have to one day. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And a lot of
Rob Halford's Judas Priest, who is a big fan of hers and was over the moon to go up and share a microphone with her during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
performance. Yeah, definitely. And
so he's on the album too.
And
Dolly Parton and Rob Halford, the metal god.
I can't wait to hear that. Another thing about Shout at the Devil, all these years later, 40 years later, it's the one album that both Motley fans and the band kind of hail as ultimate Motley album. And it's interesting. I don't know where you were this, but since the last show we did, Motley Crue has already announced there's going to be a new album with Bob Rock producing. They've already completed the recording.
Yep, they're already done.
Just have to be mixed.
They don't mess around, John Five on guitar, just like the last stuff that they had that came out from the movie The Dirt, which had a cover of Like a Virgin.
Can you believe it?
The song The Dirt with Machine Gun Kelly and all that stuff. That was all John Five anyway. So any of you guys out there worried about Motley Crue sounding like Motley Crue with John Five, you already heard it and you already liked it.
In fact,
so don't worry, people.
John Five and Nikki.
Motley Crue is good.
Yeah, in fact, John Five and Nikki have gone on the record saying the new, they could just be pumping it up, who knows? But they've gone on the record of saying, at least to their ears, it sounds most aggressive stuff Motley has ever done, supposedly. Even heavier than Shout at the Devil. They may be just pumping it up, who knows? But I guess.
Well, because you can get a heavier production sound now, too. You can redo Shout at the Devil with modern production sounds and make it sound like symphonic. So,
and again,
I absolutely think it would be great because I loved what they did on The Dirt. I loved that production sound.
And again, even if it's puffery and they're puffing up the new album a little bit that none of us has heard yet, but I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that it's going to come out sometime this year, maybe even towards the end of the year. But why else would you rush through it, unless you wanted to get it out? And I think they have a lot to prove because there's all this controversy.
And they've got one of the world's best producers. The Black Album. How many? What was it that he did with the Crew?
Dr. Feelgood, let's not forget.
Right.
The Motley album was Karabi.
Huge. So we won't discuss Saint Anger, but everything has its place in the world.
Yeah. Smart on their part getting back with him because again, Nicky's always a smart guy doing stuff like that. It's like, okay, we got to prove to the fans all this stuff going around about us using tapes. That's another great reason for doing new music. Okay, well, we're going to show you guys what we can deliver.
That's right. There'll be a lot of pressure on this, and if they do it right, they're going to firmly remain a stadium act from here on out.
And again, I don't know. I don't know how true this is, but another thing I was reading recently about the new album, supposedly Bob Rock made the decision to bring Vince Neil's son into the studio to do like some kind of backing vocals to back up his dad. And if that's true, how cool is that?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Gene Simmons on the Destroyer album brought a whole kids chorus or something like that in. So,
In fact, I don't know if you know the story,
probably because he wanted to do Date the Teacher.
Well, it's a little more to the story than that. It was, I think, for the song Great Expectations. They had a choir on that song, and I've actually heard
that. Get him a movie thing.
I've actually heard Bob Ezrin's son when he was just a young lad himself. His name is David Ezrin. He's a keyboard player. He played with Lita Ford over the years and a couple other people.
Oh, cool.
He was a very young child, and he was one of the background children in the choir. How cool is that?
Nice. On God of Thunder, maybe, or just Great Expectations.
I think there's a couple tracks they did that on, but yeah, I think that you're right. God of Thunder would have been the other one, but how cool is that?
Can you believe it's been what, 40 years since Shout at the Devil came out?
Yeah. And interesting, and what's interesting is I've heard Nicky talk about over years what a huge influence Kiss was on him, and Kiss came like 10 years obviously before Motley came, and it was actually on the Shout the Devil tour I was reading in this that
clearly they've had a big influence on Motley Crue.
That Motley Crue opened up a couple shows for Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour, and Gene, being the straight arrow guy that he is, he was kind of lecturing Nicky and the boys about, hey, not partying too hard.
In one ear, right out there.
Yeah. And it's so right, because all this stuff with Mick Mars recently came out about John Corabi kind of let the cat out of the bag, that going back to 1997 when Vince Neil came back to the band, they were trying to get rid of Mick Mars back then. He didn't even play a lot of the guitar on that album, Finney. That's why
they were trying to do that during Shout at the Devil, around that same time.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because Corabi, he wrote a lot of the songs on the album. Even though he's not the singer, he totally did a lot of the guitar. He's credited with that. And when they were trying to get back with Vince Neil, what's one of the songs featured on Generation Swine? They did a remake of Shout at the Devil.
Hated it.
Yeah. And do you remember seeing them perform it at the American Music Awards that year?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of those things. Why do you think they did a remake of Shout at the Devil? One of their most popular songs. They're trying to prove we still got it.
Yep. I'll tell you, I am very much looking forward to seeing what comes out with the new stuff. I think it's going to sound really, really, really good.
And why I'm really excited is, like a lot of Motley fans, for the last several years, I thought we were never going to get any new Motley music. I thought, they're just going to go on tour maybe. And I'm so excited that, and it's not even like just a single.
I want to make a point. Okay. That, everybody's giving the band a lot of grief right now for daring to do something without, Mick Mars.
Yeah.
But face the facts, okay? Seems like from an outsider's perspective, business-wise, okay, you have to have all four tires on the car moving in the same direction.
Sure.
But somebody is steering the car, okay? Somebody's in the driver's seat. And then this band, it would appear from an outsider point of view that it's Nicky Sixx.
Yeah,
okay. Not that they don't all have input, but that he's clearly driving the car. Okay.
Sure.
Except for him, they have done tours or albums or whatever business as Motley Crue without all three of the other guys. Yeah. They have toured without. They have toured with two other drummers besides Mick Mars, or besides Tommy Lee. Samantha something or other.
Yeah, from Hull. Mahoney.
Yes, exactly. Samantha and Randy Castillo from Ozzy's band. So, and then of course they had obviously Corabi, John Corabi on vocals. So they've done stuff without the other guys too. This is not a new thing. They always thought that a band is bigger than the individual.
Sure. Well, we're on the subject of John Corabi. Some breaking news that an official announcement hasn't exactly come out, but I heard some stuff. The Dead Daisies are posting pictures with Corabi again. Supposedly, supposedly Glenn Hughes is out and he's back in, and I've seen stuff about Glenn Hughes is doing a tour with Yngwie Malmsteen where he's playing his Deep Purple songs,
celebrating Burn. There's some clips of him doing an early show already online.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
what
go
can you
catch
say?
that.
That guy's voice is so phenomenal.
But I mean, if you can't have Glenn Hughes, I guess, and that's what I love about the Dead Daisies. They're one of these bands. They always, it's kind of whoever's available. And I love just the thought that there's going to be a new Corabi album with the, hopefully new Daisies album with Corabi.
Oh, I dig that guy's voice. I dig the way he plays. I dig the songs that he writes. So bring it on. More John Corabi in my ears is a good thing.
And Mick Mars, I mean, he's kind of a silent warrior of Motley Crue. He along with Nicky wrote a lot of those great songs we love, but
he's getting ready to put out some stuff too. I'm gonna just put this out into the universe. Mick Mars, your fans are waiting for your new music. All right, let's hear it. Give us a little something, just one song. You can hold the rest, whatever, but give us a little something. We want to hear your music, man.
And I'm hoping there's a couple tracks he recorded a couple years ago with Corabi that may finally make it onto there, because at the time, Nikki Sixx was trying to stop that because he's like, no former Motley Crue member can work with another former member or something like that. And
there's John Corabi. I've heard rumors of Jacob Bunton, who did some time with Steven Adler.
Sure.
So he's the guy.
Paul Taylor, Paul Taylor from Winger. He's also done some of the stuff with Mick, and he's in the band too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear anything that guy's guitar playing is on.
And see, what's interesting, I think, is like you're right. Nikki Sixx is finally just doing what he's been wanting to do. I mean, for one thing, you got Mick Mars' age. He's a lot older than other guys. He's suffering with his health issues with his back. Very painful to get up there. And I think that has.
It's really unfortunate, the legal stuff they're going through, but I get it. I mean,
it's business.
Pulling the plug on something that's been your entire life is scary and hard. Yeah. And Mick Mars has to be freaking out, and I get it, but the reality is, he didn't make the last album.
Yeah. And again,
at this last tour, everyone can see that he was suffering trying to bring the music to the fans one more time.
And again,
he gave us one good last run, and then, it's time.
See, a lot of his stuff was kept under wraps, even like if you go back to, when Peter was first fired from Kiss, everybody thought he just left to have a baby and they were still the best of friends. And you find all this stuff out years later, what, really went down. And like with Mick Mars.
Well, you know why? It's because you're not supposed to air dirty laundry in public. Nobody needs to see that. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, the news is bad enough. We look for entertainment we understand that stuff happens, but you don't want to give the ins and outs. That's why Sammy Hagar pulled his autobiography, because it was just too much.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my point I'm making is like with Mick Mars, until recently, we had no idea that Mick Mars didn't even play a guitar lick on Generation Swine. And they kept that under wraps for whatever reason, for business purposes, I'm sure. But then
that was DJ Ashba, right?
Yeah. And even on Saints of Los Angeles, if you watch the videos, it's all four Motley Crue guys, but you get a little glimpse of James Michael and DJ Ashba in some of the videos even. And and so even that, and people don't realize that, but like now that we realize Mick Mars really hasn't been there on an album, even pre-Generation Swine, maybe the '94 album, I think, was the last thing he officially was featured on. And that's quite a while. So you can see
Nicky's call it what it is. The band just wants to move on. Yeah, they don't want to disrespect them. Until Mick Mars came out and said all that and launched his lawsuit, they didn't say one negative word about the guy in the press. They were, for all the stuff crap that gets laid on that band about being publicity whores and negative guys and stuff like that and going below the belt. They didn't. They were very respectful to him. But clearly they just wanted to move on. I mean, they already had in the studio anyways. He's not making records with them anymore. They just wanted to move on.
And if anything, I think,
he wasn't making records anymore, and he can't tour. Yeah. So they said, look, you can't tour anymore. We want to go ahead and tour.
Exactly.
You're already not writing with us anymore. So he doesn't get any writer's credit for the new stuff because he's not writing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and he's not recording it, right? So they just want to move on and go, look, all right, fine. We want to tour with, you can't tour anymore. We want to tour. But they still offered him a cut of the tour, even though he wasn't going to be on it, and they didn't have to do that. But now they're trying to sue so he can get 25% of everything Motley Crue from here on out. Like the original thing was everybody gets a quarter share. But you know what, dude? If you're not on the records and if you're not on the tours, take the retirement plan and let the band move on.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good offer. I mean,
you still get a lot of money. Yeah, I don't think that guy's ever going to have to work again just based off the royalty checks from pre-existing Motley Crue stuff. He's going to live a comfortable life and have something rad to leave whoever he leaves his stuff to.
Yeah.
The wife, the kids, the whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, let the guys do their thing and be cool about it, because the more you slam them in the press, the worse it gets for the brand of Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And that includes people that would go back and buy the old albums because they like the new stuff. And that hurts your bottom line as much as it does the other guys in the band, because you're still making royalties off the old stuff. Yeah. So that's why you never air dirty laundry in public. It's not good for any part of a band.
Sure. I mean, if anything, the way I look at it, hopefully we'll get a new Motley Crue album by the end of the year, get a new Mick Mars solo album.
There you go.
Finally coming out. Maybe next year we'll get a new Dead Daisies album with Karabi.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to look forward to, and I don't know how much I believe Motley Crue using backing tapes. I mean, they may use some, but
you know what? Everybody that does stadium shows like that, if you only have 4 people in the band and you have a gang vocal chorus of like 10 layers, you're going to have some background vocals. Clearly, Vince Neil is not lip syncing. Clearly, with all the grief that people gave him about he's sounding good, he's sounding better, he's sounding worse, whatever. Clearly, that guy ain't phoning it in. All right, he's playing live. Okay. And honestly, whether Nikki Sixx is playing that bass live, it's not like it's rocket science, the notes that he's got to play. So entertain the crowd, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to. I don't think, and then the background vocals, I think, is about the only thing that they add,
Yeah. I've seen Motley Crue like 2 or 3 times already. And so I love the show every time I see it. And I'll tell you what,
I have no problem with added on vocals.
It's pure entertainment. And Nikki Sixx, I see him playing. I've seen him play live. I have trouble believing every single bass note on stage is a.
Well, when you're doing a stadium show, you have to play big, big mannerisms, a lot of movement. You've got a big stage and you're going from one side to the other and then running back to the other side. Then you do the thing that Dave used to do a lot of Van Halen where you run past each other at the same time, that kind of thing. So you're playing to the entire stadium full of people. Everything is exaggerated movements, big stuff. You can't do that and hit every note on a microphone or your instrument.
And
you've got to find a happy medium, a middle ground.
When we did our show a couple episodes ago on our top favorite live albums, we talked about the fact that Kiss Alive, people know years later that
it's a great Kiss album.
Some of that stuff was patched up, but you know what? It still sounds like
the crowd noise was too.
It still sounds like a great live album to me. And so if my ears are doing tricks on me,
it sounds like what a Kiss concert sounded like back then. Because if you really taped a Kiss concert live, the bombs, the percussion from the pyro would like blow out the microphones and you'd get fuzzy sounds all through the song. So what they did was they created sonically what it sounds like to be in the middle of a Kiss concert. Was it completely live? No.
Myself, you, and a lot of other Kiss fans, I don't know if fooled is the right word, but we were entertained. And all these years later, it's still not just
care, and I still don't care.
The critics will count that as like a classic rock album all these years later. It's on a lot of people's favorite list. And
time is on my side. Yes, it is.
There you go. And the only other thing since all this stuff with Mick Mars came about is, Nikki kind of lashed out at Carmine a piece, like calling him a washed up drummer. I think that was just his anger getting the best of him. But I mean, how anybody could call Carmine a piece of washed up drummer, he's still out there touring. He's had like a 50+ career, plays with Cactus and Vanilla Fudge and does all these other projects. So he's far from washed up.
He's been around a while. He's definitely an elder statesman, and you got to give it up for somebody that can't last that long and without being having something special.
Some skills.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, the guy has played on some heavy stuff like Blue Murder. He's played on Rod Stewart. You
Pink
know,
Floyd even.
Just running the gamut. The guy has got a wide range.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I heard Vinny Appice, his brother, talking about when Carmine was on the Ed Sullivan show. I mean, and that's one of those reference points that you know.
Ed Sullivan, can you imagine?
The Beatles, Vanilla Fudge, you know, the Doors.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hey, so before we go, I should mention Kissed Alive, my Kiss tribute band that is now in its second decade, right? We started in San Diego in 2012, right?
Congratulations. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're having a lot of fun, and we try not to take ourselves too seriously. We just try and make it out like, look, we're Kiss fans, hanging out with Kiss fans, and we're listening to some great tunes. We get to play it, but we're all just having fun. You know, that's kind of the take we got. So my birthday, August 4th,
Happy birthday.
we are playing at Sequan Casino in El Cajon, California, which is just maybe about a half hour east of San Diego. Okay, it's in East San Diego County. El Cajon, Sequan Casino. All right, we're gonna go in their showroom there, and we're gonna have a proper rock and roll good time that night. And to talk about that, in between now and then, I can actually announce today for the first time that on the morning of Sunday, June 25th. We are going to perform, Kissed Alive will be performing on live TV as the musical guest for Good Morning San Diego.
Oh, wow.
So San Diego, we're going to be all up in your grill this summer, okay? So we're going to be on, so we're coming for you. We're coming for you, San Diego. We're going to have a good time. And oddly enough, personally speaking, when my family moved out here, made the great migration west from Niagara Falls, New York, where I was born, and I lived till I was like 11, right? And we migrated out to California. The town we landed in was El Cajon, California. So imagine how the planets are lining up for something that's going to be a really special night. It's my birthday. It's in the town that I first came to the West Coast in, right? And it's the first proper big casino show in our county, our home county, in a long time, you know. And so our first big show of the new decade, first big show with our new, our first big SoCal show with our new bass player, Mr. Eric Schneider. Just gonna have a lot of fun. Our guitar player, Casey Trask, just off the road, playing guitar, of course, with Trauma, and opening for Marty Friedman and Queensryche, and there's footage of Casey jamming with Marty Friedman, you know. And I heard a rumor that something else is brewing from that tour, you know, like maybe our guy, something else.
Yeah, wow.
Cool that you might be hearing. It's not my tale to tell, but
I got you. Okay.
I'll say that good things happen to good people. You know what I mean? And it's rad.
Congratulations, Casey. Yeah. Wow.
So there's that. But so Kissed Alive, August 4th, Sequan Casino. All right, San Diego County. We're coming home for one night. We want to see all our friends, show them that tribute bands can put on a big show at a casino, and let's get all of our friends gigs by this time next year. All right.
And can we get a request for Jason?
One of us rises, we all float to the top.
Hey, Jason Lee, can we request that you sing Black Diamond that night?
I guarantee you, I'll sing Black Diamond that night.
Okay, my friend, we're getting ready to go. You take care, and we'll do this again in 2 weeks. This will be going up next week. Thanks, my friend. This is always so much fun to do with you.
Take care, Jason. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.